So by Neville Goddard, there's a quote he talked about. He said, the poor man, the beggar man, the thief, the rich man are not different men or different people. They're different arrangements of the same mind. So we all have a mind. They're just rearranged in a different way to view reality as a rich man, as a poor man, as a beggar man.
And in the Landmark Forum, they always used to say that you are a mean-making machine. And one of the other monikers is that everything is empty and meaningless. And it really is true, because you would have a story, and they used to use the exact same word. They say you created a story from something when it happened when you were 5 or 6 or 7. And that story you applied to everything in your life.
Collapsing time is according to your faith. We're not talking about religious faith. We're talking about how much you feel your desire is natural to you right now.
And people will say, but Todd, he was lucky. I'm like, no, luck comes from a person who's prepared, right, to take advantage of that. If you are new to this podcast, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share, because that helps us to be recommended in the algorithms. If you would like to support this podcast, please check out our merch store on Amazon with the brand Todd and Me. We've got some cool t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and sweaters. Link will be in the description of this podcast. And if you're now starting a spiritual journey, you would like to start a spiritual journey, or you're currently on a spiritual journey and you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, please hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246, and it will help you to get some magic mushrooms. Enjoy the show and stay tuned, because we have some more great content coming soon. What if your current life, your results, your relationships, your finances were just reflections of one thing: your subconscious identity? Today's guest believes that when you shift your frequency, you shift everything. Hello, beautiful and amazing people. Welcome to the Conscious Man 7 podcast, the show where we decode the science of transformation, the art of masculine mastery, and the deep work that creates real results. My name is Todd Cave, and today we're going quantum. I am joined by Scott Haug, a transformation mentor who teaches people how to collapse time, align their higher self, and reprogram their subconscious to manifest powerful outcomes fast. He's helped thousands of people upgrade their identity, shift their internal blueprint, and create lives that once felt impossible. In today's episode, we go deep into why your inner self-belief is creating your outer world, how to reprogram your mind for abundance, power, and clarity, and what it actually means to jump timelines and elevate your frequency. So if you're ready to stop playing small and start consciously creating the life you know you are here to live, this one is for you, as this episode will expand your mind.
When truth is blurred by lies and misinformation, perception becomes reality. What will you perceive your reality to be?
Liberate your fears and walk with me.
Sit down and meditate. Connect with your soul.
Be a monster and then learn how to control it.
You got to be willing to do the work.
So it really goes really deep in terms of words and etymology and what they mean. So this is why it is really hard to really crack the matrix, because there's so many levels and layers to it, Scott, welcome to the Conscious Man 7 podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you today. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing awesome, Todd. Thanks for having me on. Let's go quantum. Talk.
Yes. So let's dive right into it, because I have many questions today.
Yeah.
So I want to start off with quantum consciousness and reality creation. So what exactly is quantum manifestation, and how does it differ from traditional manifestation techniques?
This is a great start, especially those who are listening, they're conscious explorers like we were talking about, right? Because regular traditional manifestation, I think, really comes back to like The Secret, right? The movie and the book. Like attracts like, what you think, you become these traditional phrases and understandings. Yeah. When we talk about quantum manifestation, we're talking more about manifesting from a deep consciousness level, like the particle, the idea of that the wavelength will change into a particle. That whatever is in my imagination, as long as I am feeling fused with it, can start to become a probable reality. So we can start talking about parallel realities in the multiverse, if you will, not sci-fi, not talking about the Spider-Man movie, but more the idea that we have multiple versions of us that are accessible to us. Yeah. So the main idea here is that at the quantum side, I deal more in energy, in the minute, in the tiny, in the subconscious parts of us. And that makes all the difference in the traditional ways.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about vibrational frequency. How do we actually shift into higher frequencies on a daily basis?
Yeah. My first mentor was Bob Proctor, and he said this quote. He said, feeling is your conscious awareness of the vibration you're in. So really feeling is vibration. So if we're trying to tap into higher vibrational levels, we need to tap into deeper seated feelings. Makes it pretty simple to start. Yeah. So if I'm trying to get into these higher level ideas vibrationally, it's how much wholeness can I feel right now with my soul? How connected can I feel with who I really am within? How can I start associating the topic and idea of abundance to be my normal and my standard? Right? So we start talking about getting to a place. I know we're going to talk about practical ideas, right? We're going to talk about how do we start. We'll do that in a little bit, obviously. But for now, it's just the idea of when I'm elevating my consciousness to a level that can manifest, if my relationship with my inner being or soul side is really great, it's close, I will manifest way faster. There will be a higher frequency level I'm manifesting from. If I am very separate from my soul or very separate from my concepts around abundance of money, I'll constantly feel in a lower vibration, right? So if I'm feeling lack around money, disappointment, frustration, for example, we're just using money, but this is for anything. It's my awareness that I am in a low frequency around money. When I'm saying I feel like money is my best friend, I feel like it's always here, it's always present. What I'm really saying is my vibration around money is one that's abundance. I'm aware of that. Yeah. So you can step into those higher vibrations through the wholeness, connecting to who you really are. That's the art of it.
So this sounds very similar to what Joe Dispenza talks about in terms of using an elevated emotion and an intention. Mm-hmm. So, because you mentioned the emotion, and his, I guess you can say, protocol for manifestation is like, if you have an elevated emotion, the emotion that you're going to have when you accomplish that thing, and it's like the way I visualize it is like an X and Y axis. So you're going up now on the X to have the sort of purpose, the thing that you want to manifest, and the Y is like the direction. So that means then now, because I'm a civil engineer, that's how my brain works. I'm looking at it X and Y now. Boom. That makes the spot in which that particular thing is achievable. Does my analogy like kind of make sense?
Yeah, I love that analogy. It's fantastic. That's great. Yeah, even Neville Goddard, the mystic and spiritual author all those years ago, wrote in all of his books. One of his books is called Feeling is the Secret, right? So I think Joe Dispenza's work is just profound and amazing because he does talk about the quantum field being this space where your thought is the electrical side and your feeling is the magnetism side. So that's when it's like when you do 100 affirmations in a day, doesn't mean those things are going to become true unless you have the feeling, which is your conviction that they are true already. So the feeling to me is like, imagine like a line. And then when you add feeling to it, it starts to become a frequency. It starts to become motion. And that is what helps find its way to you. There's one thing that's helped my students so much. It's such a very good topic that I've discovered and that helped me transform my ideas of this, is that everything you say out loud or what you visualize to be true right now is a physical lie, but it's a spiritual truth. So if you want to manifest in $2,000, it's a physical lie. You don't have it. It's not in your bank account right now. We can say that bluntly. Hey, I don't have it. But it's a spiritual truth because at your highest being, your inner being, your soul, it has it all. Where the potential field is, where nothing's created or destroyed, it's already there, morphing based on our imagination. So spiritual truth is, that's who I really am. I'm not this physical body. I'm not this physical life. I'm a higher substance. And if I'm that higher substance who already has everything, or all the potential of having everything, it's a spiritual truth, it's mine. So then you can start thinking of that way. When I feel it to be true and I'm magnetizing towards me, how do you feel something to be true when it's not physically true? Because it's true at a different dimension. And when we lock into that point, that's when we can feel it. And that's when it starts magnetizing towards us.
Very interesting. That is true. It's actually a lie in the physical world. And then like you're saying, in the spiritual world is true because it's based on your beliefs.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you break down the link between quantum physics and spiritual transformation for people new to this concept?
Yeah. I think quantum physics is now just catching up to what mystics and ancient teachers have known for a very, very long time. The idea to me is that we are something much bigger than this body. Right? We're kind of just mentioning that. We're this infinite power, a spark of God, whatever your belief system or faith is. We're something much bigger. Quantum physics explains that we're pretty much filled with nothing but energy. It's just data. It's just information. It's just energy wavelengths. When I start to transform spiritually, to me, what we're doing is rearranging the substance of who we already are. So by Neville Goddard, there's a quote he talked about. He said, the poor man, the beggar man, the thief, the rich man are not different men or different people. They're different arrangements of the same mind. So we all have a mind. They're just rearranged in a different way to view reality as a rich man, as a poor man, as a beggar man, thief. So what he's saying there is we all have a mind. We all have a body. We're all here in this physical 3D. But how my consciousness is arranged is how I'm seeing my life. So what results are in my life, it's what relationships I have, it's what's coming in. So when we're spiritually transforming, to me, we're rearranging the consciousness in the quantum field to start viewing what we're wanting to view. And some of us have no idea what's going on, so we're not intentionally doing this. And we're viewing a world that we hate, we don't like, we're frustrated by, and the dead-end job, we're in a relationship we don't want to be in, because our consciousness is arranged to be in that life. And I think that's the bridge. It's sometimes a little complicated, but at least it starts to simplify it.
No, you know what? What you're saying is the high-level version of what I say on my podcast when I'm a guest and even to my clients. That mindset is everything. So like the clients that I coach for fitness and to get into shape, I tell them all the time, actually getting in shape is very easy because I've given you the protocol on what to do. The doing is easy. However, it is the mindset that will determine if you will get the results or not. Because your mindset, as you were saying, how you arrange your consciousness is going to be, oh, you know, Todd, just stay in bed today. You don't have to get up early and go to the gym. And then that same mindset would be like, well, why follow your meal plan today? Just go and get some takeaway, some Mackie D's and some KFC and all that kind of stuff, right? And then the same mindset is going to be like, oh, well, we should go to bed early tonight, but let's just watch this movie on Netflix. So I always say that mindset is the key to actually getting into shape. So getting into shape actually improves your mindset because they have a symbiotic relationship. So you can't improve your mindset without getting into shape, and you can't get into shape without improving your mindset. So this is another way of saying I'm supposing that how you rearrange your consciousness is how you're going to appear, how you're going to manifest yourself in life. So if you arrange your consciousness to be poor, you will be a beggar and poor in this 3D reality. And then if you arrange it to be the consciousness and the mindset of a rich person, you will automatically embody that in the 3D physical.
Yeah, I love that example because that's exactly what it is. The mindset is the consciousness arrangement. And if we know how it's organized, no wonder why we might be overweight and doing all the action, but it's not corresponding, right, to what we're wanting. I think it's a perfect example. I grew up also in a fitness. My parents actually still own a fitness gym here in New York, and martial arts was a big thing, part of the gym. And you could take multiple people in the martial arts, and they're all doing the same thing. They're all learning the same punches and kicks and sparring and class. One is a champion and one isn't, not even close to being a champion. What's the difference? Is it just skill? You could take both people and they have great skill. You could take both people and they came from about the same locality, same family, the same culture, right? But one really believes in themselves and one doesn't. It's that one thing. And I'm like, how is it so vastly different? Well, this person grew up maybe with a traumatized childhood and overcame it. And this person grew up in a childhood, but they didn't. And they felt unworthy of becoming something great. Right. So we can start to see that so much of whether actions are successful or whether we as human beings are successful comes down to the mind, comes down to where am I at? And what's corresponding in my world right now with where I'm at.
Have you ever heard of a book called The Kabbalion?
Yeah, love that book, Three Initiates.
Yeah, and in there, Hermes Trismegistus says, the all is mind and the universe is mental.
Yeah.
And when you actually think of it on a deep level, it is literally what you're saying. The all, meaning the universe, consciousness, God, whatever word you want to use, is mind. It's the mind, right? This is why the subconscious mind taps into that field. And then the universe, which is the same thing, is mental. So to become successful in it, you actually have to change your mindset. It's a mental game. And I love that quote so much that I actually put it on one of my shirts in my merch store, because when I read that book, I felt a huge shift in terms of whoa. So Joe Dispenza talks on it on a scientific level, and the Kabbalion talks on it on a spiritual level, which is all the same thing. One is a bit more mystical and I don't want to say hidden, but of a higher nature. And Joe Dispenza's work is okay, you see that thing over there? Let's put it in terms of pen and paper, science. Here's the evidence, right? Mm-hmm. So it really does, his work and that book shifted a lot for me,
Yeah. Yeah, the axioms in that book it's like an undeniable blueprint of the principles of how we live. One of the ones I love in there too is as above, so below, as below, so above. It's that same thing as inside, outside, as outside, inside, right? It's such a cool way of it makes so much more sense now how life goes, right? Because if I have it's the duality side. If I have a black, I have a white. If I have up, I have a down. And it just explains life so well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So what's the biggest block people have when trying to manifest a better life, and how do they overcome it?
When I work with my clients, there's usually top 3 big blocks. Number 1 is law of attraction doesn't work for me. It's the most common phrase I hear. I've tried it. I've listened to law of attraction books, audiobooks, YouTube videos. It just doesn't work for me. We'll cover that. Number 2 is I don't feel worthy and deserving of good. I don't feel worthy of money. I don't feel worthy of love. I don't feel worthy of good things happening. And they feel this internally. It's like a mind constantly sabotaging them It's a big block. And number 3 is skepticism. And I always say skepticism, thank you for being skeptical, because it's good. You don't need to run into everything believing like, yeah, this is going to be great. Like somebody says, you're going to earn $1 million through this crypto thing. You'd be like, I should probably think about and look into this first, right? So I like being skeptical sometimes too. Like, let me look into it before I believe it all. So these aren't bad blocks. They're just blocks that we need to kind of navigate around, especially with the first one, because we never say gravity didn't work for me today, right? There's nobody floating in the air, but it's the law of gravity. Law of attraction is working for everybody all the time, 24/7. To me, the phrasing can change into, I'm attracting what I do like, or I'm attracting what I don't like. So it's not that it's not working for me. I'm not able to attract more of what I'm wanting, and I'm attracting more of what I don't want. So it's a change in mind frame. It's not that it's working or not. It's working for me, but I don't know how to work it very well right now. So that's a different ownership. I'm not blaming something not working. Now I'm blaming, I just must not be that good yet at knowing how to attract results. That's a completely different click point. The second really helping with worthiness is with my clients, I dive really deep into trauma healing, because I believe strongly that the trauma is playing out in its adult life to finally resolve itself. So that's why people usually marry their counterpart, and you'll have these puzzle pieces of two very different people coming together, and you have like anxious attachment, anxious avoidant, for example. I experienced that. And we can go down to a source of why is this coming into our life. We do some deep trauma healing on that. And you start to get around some of these blocks by looking at yourself, understanding the responsibility you have to look at these wounds, and then you can get around it. But the blocks are hard, because if you don't know you have them, or you don't know what you're being blocked by, then you can try all you want, but it's a little frustrating.
Yeah, I agree, because like what you're saying is, I guess, a stage that I passed through as well, where I was trying everything and affirmations, meditation. I would set my intentions when I go to do ceremonies, and it just felt like really stuck. And I guess in terms of me, what happened is that I got so frustrated that my how should I put it? My identity broke. Right, I came to a point where I broke down, and in all levels, where I just I was so fed up. I just literally submitted and let go, because there was nothing else to do. I was like, whatever I need to do, show me. And I ended up then doing the podcast, to be honest, right? Because it just came to me. And I'm not saying that everyone has to get to that point of absolute breaking, but in my case, I guess I had to get there because I had to pass through it all, because now I'm a coach. I mean, I was always a coach, but I'm a much better coach now, because I can identify very quickly where my clients are in terms of belief systems, there's something that's holding them back, and what's not. But I guess in my case, I had to go to the deepest, darkest places of my mind in order to get to the light. And then once I broke, then things started to improve for me. And I can't tell people what's the magic pill and what's not, which is why I brought you on, because maybe you can explain that a little bit more. So is there a formula or system you've discovered that consistently works for creating breakthroughs, so that people don't have to go the route I made?
Right. And I've been through my share of breakdown moments and, oh my God, what are we doing here, right? And all this falling apart. I believe that our soul is whispering to us 24/7, all the time. And if we are listening to that higher wisdom in part of us, and we take action on what it's whispering to us, we don't have to go through these painful bring ourselves to the ground moments necessarily. I think these moments blow up in our faces, in our lives, when we're not answering the call. At least for me, I've experienced that on multiple occasions when everything blew up and it crumbled. And there was something that I knew inside I should be doing or changing or tweaking in some sort of way, but I wasn't doing it because logic was conning it out. Oh, I'll do it next year. I'm trying my best. It's not working out. I don't really need to do that right now. Whatever logical excuse. Oh, it's Christmas coming up. Oh, it's holidays. I'll wait till January, right? And if we're listening to that whisper, the breakthrough can happen faster, which is collapsing time frame between you now and the breakthrough moment. And you listen to that whisper as a faint feeling in your heart. So one thing that happened for me, 2 examples, was early on in my engineering career, like we talked about, I was only there for 6 months. I knew in my heart, my soul felt like it was dying. I was like in a cubicle doing paper, all this stuff. I'm like, there's no way this is happiness, right? Something inside of me knew it was time to move on already. But the logic comes in, well, I just graduated. I didn't even give it time. 4 years of university, I'm already going to a different job. $100,000 in student loan debt. I had a great salary. All my family's saying, no, just give it a couple, give it another year or 2, see where you're at, right? Just something new. All these logical reasons, but I knew in my heart. I only knew. Nobody else had to know. And I couldn't convince anybody else what I knew. But I followed that heart feeling, put in my 2 weeks notice, and it evolved my path, not easy, but dramatically to where I am at today. That was a time when I answered the call. And a time I didn't answer the call, I remember distinctly having like all these things trying to move forward and everything. And I just kept conning myself out. And that's when everything blew up. And I had to like completely say like, okay, I need to switch paths here. Right? So if you listen to the whisper and you understand it and you take an action on it, I believe breakthrough can happen without the extreme struggle.
That is a very interesting answer, and I was not expecting that. So what you're saying basically is that the formula to consistently having breakthroughs is to basically listen to your higher self because of the cues that you are given. Am I hearing that correct?
Yes, at least that's what I believe, and that's been my experience with me and my clients, because there's a wisdom inside of us that, especially in Western society, has been clouded. Like, it's so hard to hear your intuition and whisper if you're not tapped in. And we know so many things in our heart, but we don't trust ourselves, or we don't trust the intuition, or we don't trust the world around us, or again, logic might come in and con us out. And if you are listening to your higher self, breakthroughs can happen every day, every week, every month. Not that easy. It's easier to say that, because some of those breakthroughs requires massive courage. Sometimes the thing you're doing is like, well, this is working out. Why would I change it? Right? But you know inside, like, it just feels off. Something's not there. And it's a lot of faith, because it's always that unknown, unfamiliar territory. So, okay, this thing is known. It's working for me. This job, it's $100,000 a year, this, that, like, it feels fine, but I know something's wrong. But if I go and change it, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, right? It's unfamiliar. So it's very difficult to listen.
Okay. Let's play devil's advocate here just for the sake of this conversation, where someone is completely, now coming into understanding that there's a higher, that they have a higher self, etc. How then can they distinguish between their higher self telling them to do stuff, or maybe a subconscious programming, that they had from birth, or the ego, which feeds on fear and stuff, communicating with them and saying, don't do it, or what's not? Because your higher self can come and say, Todd, go and renew your registration for your car because you're going to get stopped next week. Or it could be like, you want to do something and it's like, don't do it, right? how then, like, a person now coming into this understanding that they have a higher self, how can they know the difference between if it's actually their higher self or it's coming from the ego, which is always based on fear and trauma?
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause I've had clients like, yeah, Scott, I was listening and, it told me to go watch Netflix and take a break but it felt good, right? That's what I'm talking about. I was like, no, that's not what we're saying. So this is good. And actually 2 days ago, I had my client ask me the same exact question. He's been in our program for a little while and we were talking about inner child and how do you hear an inner child? Simple principle. The eternal part of you, the soul part, the one that's wise, is almost always simple, small phrases and words, and always around love and uncomfortability, growth. The ego side, the side that's talking to you, that's not actually a wisdom side, is more of your wounding, your limitations, is usually justifying, logically correct, and comforting. And when you see the difference there, it makes total sense. So the Netflix time, I was like, no, that's your comfort voice. That's that trauma voice that's trying to protect you from doing something growth oriented. And that's a big distinguishment.
That is awesome because, okay, so basically for people listening now, anytime that you get communication with your higher self or anything that is not of this world, and it's putting you in an uncomfortable position, you're saying that this is actually a thing that you should really be doing as opposed to actually doing the thing that you would normally do. So uncomfortability is really coming from a higher place, and the comfortability is coming from a lower place.
Yes. Because for me, my belief in understanding, but everyone can have their own, the soul only cares about who it's becoming in this lifetime. Doesn't care about how much money you made, doesn't care how many cool cars you drove, doesn't matter how many vacations you took, it matters who you're becoming. That's your higher side, your inner self. If it only cares about who you're becoming, it wants you to expand, grow, and become more of what it is, which is love. So it's only going to direct you to the things that are going to make you expand to be more in that love, to be more of who you truly are, which is uncomfortable because who you are today is most likely not your highest self all the way, all of us, because it's a striving thing in this human existence. The other side, though, if it provides you comfort and familiarity and normalness, there's no growth. And we're not saying every day it's a whisper of like, it's got to be difficult growth. We're not saying that. Sometimes your higher self will say, you got to go in nature, take a rest. And that might be uncomfortable for the go people, right? Working all day nonstop. The uncomfortable thing might be rest. So it's not saying it's always action oriented, but it cares about growth, which is your expansion, which is becoming more of itself, which is love and that eternal feeling.
Interesting. So basically, it is based in love and uncomfortability. And, I could never explain why doing the uncomfortable things kind of like would be from your higher self. I understood it as like, in order to grow, you have to go through pain, and pain is uncomfortable. And I always say all the time that comfort zones are the places where dreams and goals go to die. And I also say that fear is the cousin of death. But you've taken those sort of like two monikers that I use and amalgamated it and said, well, if you want to know if this thing is true, it's based in these two things, love and uncomfortability.
Yeah.
I'm going to start to use that because that sounds way cooler than the other things that I say. Because I guess sometimes it kind of like shell shocks people and to make them a little bit scared, because human beings, we tend to run towards comfort and run away from uncomfortability. But putting in the love part now is sort of like soothes it a little bit, whereas like, okay, so if it loves me, then okay, it kind of like maybe people be more inclined to do it. So I'm gonna use that, love and accountability.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a thing that we need to be reminded of, me too, like reminded of all the time, because it's the hard part of the duality experience. We're human, but we're also this other energetic being. So where there's always like a little battle going on almost. It's like, okay, there's familiarity in the 3D, and this higher side is trying to stretch me towards something that's uncomfortable. But like you said, human existence tends to want familiarity, comfort, normalness. That's why we sit at the same chair at the same table, as somebody pointed out to me sometimes, like, you're always sitting at the same chair. I was like, I don't know, I'm just doing it because I usually do it, right? Or you always get up at the same time usually, right? You have these familiar things, but your soul is trying to say, no, do these different things. So it's like this battle, like, how do I live, right? And that's a very interesting question.
Yeah. So you've said reality is a mirror. So how do we change what it reflects back at us in real time?
To me, the mirror is a sum total of all of your inner conversations. What I mean by that is the conversations we're having all the time. It's like those thoughts when you don't feel like you're thinking, when you're daydreaming, when you're driving a car, and doing the laundry, and kind of doing mundane things. We have these inner conversations. We've all done it before in some sort of capacity. We've been arguing with somebody even when nothing's happening, or we're having a really wonderful conversation when nothing's happening, or you're thinking about that money scenario, or you're thinking about that business, or you're thinking about that job, or the coworkers. Our inner conversations are what, so if you can imagine like a visual, there's like 100 conversations above you. We add all those together. Underneath of it's the subconscious. All those conversations become a theme. And the theme is what the mirror is. So maybe a theme in my life, and you can have one overarching theme, but multiple little ones underneath. Like my theme might be money in, money out. I never seem to have abundance at the end of the month. 10,000 comes in, 10,000 comes out. 5,000 comes in, 5,000. So maybe that's one of my mini themes. Another mini theme might be everyone that comes into my life is unfriendly, right? These might be, or everyone that comes into my life are amazing people. These mini themes. And this overarching theme is usually your deepest core wound plus your growth altogether. So the wound might be, or the theme might be, I am a great person. Some good things happen to me, but not everything I desire. So that's your mirror. Reality reflects some things happen good, some things I don't get in my life. I feel like I'm kind of happy, but not all the way. So that part is the mirror, and that's what reflects on that quantum field we were talking about earlier, which is data. So we've arranged the data to be in accordance with the theme, which is the mirror. Hopefully that makes sense. I know it's a little visual that we can't actually, see. It's not drawing.
Yeah, it's very much like, again, the data, and it's like the subconscious mind is the memory bank for it all, and it just doesn't really know if what you're saying is real. And basically, it's our job to rearrange that data in a way now that the subconscious mind will confirm the beliefs that we want it to have. So I guess there's a bit of responsibility that has to be taken in order to do that,
Yeah, I think you said it so well. The subconscious mind doesn't know what's real or what's imagined. It doesn't know tomorrow from today or from yesterday. The subconscious mind, all time and all space, is right now in this present moment. It's an interesting thought experiment for anyone listening in and just us talking about this. If we think a thought right now, like think about your front door. Is it green? Is it black? Is it red? Does it open from the left or the right? Is there a doorknob, door handle? Okay. So we just went to your front door in imagination. But was it yesterday? Was it tomorrow? No, it was right now in this moment. Were you actually teleported to your front door? No, there was no space. It was in your imagination or in your memory bank, right? So there's no space there. Now, we often think that a thought right now is just reflecting on yesterday. but it's actually creating our tomorrow. So we think as human beings, if I think about a memory that I went to Disney World, or I think about what I had for lunch yesterday, I'm just recalling information, right? But actually what's going on here is that once I recall information, I'm tending towards that similar theme tomorrow. So the thoughts you're investing in or spending is creating a tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, even though it feels like my thoughts are proceeding into the past. Very interesting to think about, very complex to think about, but it just comes down to, am I spending my thoughts today or investing them so that more of my subconscious mind becomes the mirror I'm choosing and deliberately creating, the one I'm desiring.
Okay, so we've established then that the subconscious identity is key to transformation. So how can we actually begin reprogramming it? Because we talked about it is this action, but how can someone reprogram the actual, subconscious mind to bring in transformation?
Yeah, I wish it was as easy as like the Matrix. When they put the thing in the back of the head and download, like, I know Kung Fu in like 10 seconds, right? That would be kind of interesting because it's like a software, basically. Subconscious mind is a software. It needs an update. Our body's the hardware. Yeah. So if we think about it like a software, we're just upgrading the understanding internally. A couple of core principles of upgrading that software. It's going to take effort. It's going to take time. And it's going to take patience. If you know that ahead of time on reprogramming your mind, it's so much easier because we often want things today, right? I just want my mind to be rich already. I just want my mind to be filled with beautiful, good programming. We'll start with those 3 principles, and then I go through a 3-step practical process. Very easy to do. Number 1, be very descriptive on the qualities and characteristics that you want your life to start being like. I want my life to be easier. I want my life to be more in flow. I want to have more miracles coming in easier. I want to create breakthroughs and transformation faster, right? So we start getting these qualities and characteristics down. And along with that, what beliefs would you need to believe if your desires were to come true? So example, we talk about money a lot in our courses, but you can use it for anything. If I wanted a 7-figure year, 6 figures in the bank, I would need to believe that money is easy to get. I would need to believe that money is a friend of mine. I would need to believe that money is abundant in all places and it's rightfully good for everyone to have. So maybe I write down 10 qualities, 10 characteristics, and 10 beliefs. The starting point is the awareness of what needs to shift. Number 2, I start working at it. I could do my affirmations. I could do gratitude lists. I could do visualization. I could do different modalities in order to allow the belief to become mine. The process is, if I say a belief out loud, remember we already talked about the physical lie and a spiritual truth. So I'm going to say it out loud. It might not be feeling like it's real. I don't know if I believe that yet. But every day you work at it, maybe you do mirror work and you look at yourself in the eyes and you say, Scott Haug is now believing this. Todd Cave is now believing this, right? So you start really reinforcing that image in your mind through repetition, just like the gym. And then stage 3 is just reminding yourself, how can I feel it to be true now, is by practicing it as if it's a language. So vibration to me is the universal language. It's the language of God, language of higher power. If I want to speak the language of vibration to get more of what I want, I have to learn it. I have to become fluent in it. It's like if I want to learn Spanish, every day I should start learning phrases and vocabulary and then speaking to somebody who knows Spanish so I can understand the dynamic. So stage 3 or step 3 is practice. Practice believing before you see it. Practice saying those beliefs out loud and feeling like you can start to believe them. And that process will be down to earth, practical to get you going. on a day-to-day basis for anyone listening.
Wow. Very, very interesting. So basically, there's a little bit of a protocol for people to follow. So I would suggest that people listening to this podcast to rewind what Scott said and listen to it a few times, because that sounds very much to me like a bit of a cheat sheet there for you. So, thanks for sharing that. And so what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about self-worth and energy alignment?
Self-worth is a big topic because self-worth to me doesn't exist. Now, I know that's very interesting to say because everyone at a fundamental level is worthy of everything. There's not necessarily one person that's worthy of money and another one isn't, worthy of love and the other one isn't. If we are and we believe that we're a spark of this higher wholeness, it therefore means we're a part of that. And what is that? Wholeness. So at a spiritual level, I don't ever think it's a question of self-worthiness or self-deservingness. I think it's the humanization that we've come up with a concept that we are disconnected from this wholeness. So to me, a question of self-worth or self-deservingness is I'm saying I'm disconnected from who I really am. So I question if I'm worthy or not. So there's this disconnect. And I think that all spiritual practice is getting us to be connected again. So we are a little separate from our soul in plant medicine, modalities, ceremonies. Everything we're talking about is getting you reconnected with who you really are. So if anybody wants to work a little bit on like self-worthiness, self-deservingness, I have a process and protocol for that I work with my clients. Number one, when did you feel, or what do you feel right now about self-worthiness? I don't feel good about me. I feel confident. I feel like I have low self-esteem. Step two, when did you feel a similar way in childhood? Was it around your mother, your father, your siblings, teachers, kids in your school? And number three, write down 3 memories that are the most potent that come up around when you felt this way. And you have to go back and revise it. You see, when you were 5 years old, for example, I had a client that was 5 and he always lost Monopoly to his older siblings. Well, he was 5 years old. They just never let him win, right? So they always won, and he took on the theme, I must be a loser. I must never win. He was 45 years old or 50 years old, and 45 years later, he's still feeling like he's no good from something at age 5, right? So it's not the thing that happened, it's the meaning we created out of the thing that happened. So if we go back and change the meaning from our adult perspective, you release the low self-doubt, the feeling of no confidence. Because now it's like, oh, I was 5, they were older, they were better, that's it. There's no story. That's the reality of it. And now you feel worthy, you feel deserving because there was never any void there. It was just the meaning we created out of it. Super interesting process to go through.
Very interesting, because it reminds me very much of something that I did a few years ago called the Landmark Forum. And in the Landmark Forum, they always used to say that you are a mean-making machine. And one of the other monikers is that everything is empty and meaningless. And it really is true, because you would have a story, and they used to use the exact same word. They say you created a story from something when it happened when you were 5 or 6 or 7. And that story you applied to everything in your life. This is why they would say, so basically you have become a mean-making machine. But if you actually study it, it was empty and meaningless because you're only 5 years old. And what you're saying just really brought back that memory to me. And that was, the Landmark Forum is basically what opened the door to personal development for me, because it brought in a whole heap of concepts that completely blew my mind. And it really set me off on this journey. The only thing is that it didn't really talk about subconscious minds and beliefs. So what's one subconscious belief you had to personally overcome to become who you are today?
I had a lot of them. I was really trapped in like an unhappy identity. I felt like criticism was a hard thing for me at first. I remember believing especially around money and love, like it just was all over the place. So if anybody else is feeling that way, it's a work in progress. It's like a canvas. You're starting to picture yourself, differently. But if there's a lot, it's okay. It's normal, right? One belief specifically, I know that was really difficult for me was I didn't know if I could actually run a business because, like, successfully. I didn't know if I could actually ever become an entrepreneur that you'd see on Instagram or YouTube and like, wow, I wish I could do like 10,000 a month or something like that. And I remember that like $30 used to be a lot of money to me, or $50. And my first mentor, Bob Proctor, I remember at one of his seminars in person, he talked about money in such a way. He said, when you compare money, if you have a low association around this kind of money, you are allowing yourself to not be in a place of ever having larger amounts of money. Because to $30, $50, or $100, is that a lot of money to a billionaire? Of course not, right? Not a trick question. Is it a lot of money to somebody who's never had a dollar in their life? Maybe. Maybe they never had money, and maybe $100 is like it's like gold. So it's how you relate yourself to money. And that was a massive belief I had to change. So here's how I started to change it. I started to say out loud my goal, 10,000 a month. That was my first like, wow, if I got there, that's something. Like, this is cool, right? And I was like, I would say out loud, 10,000 a month is not a lot of money to a billionaire. 10,000 a month is not a lot of money compared to $1 million a month. So I started to make it feel easy and small. And when it became easy and small, it started to happen very quickly. Actually, and there's 58 days when I started my business and got to a 10K month was 58 days. And it was like, wow, now I'm soaring. This has got to be awesome, right? So I started to do that association method, but anybody can use that, make it look so small, and you associate it, wow, this is going to be a breeze. This is going to be easy. And your mind will naturally start to carve out the areas to be able to.
Well, that is levels. So we can take a small pause here for a second to say, if this is blowing your mind, folks, take a screenshot, tag us on Instagram at Adriano_246, and let us know your biggest takeaway, because that was like a mic drop moment there. And we still have more show to go, right? So basically, if someone is stuck in a loop or struggle, a loop of lack or struggle, what's the first thing they should do right now?
Yeah. First thing always is to try and find a moment of 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you can, and do nothing. Sounds crazy. Usually people get, different advice, and it's like, go and get this action going, go and get this thing going. But if you're stuck, there's a deep reason for it. We need to understand, why are you stuck? And what is the karmic lesson that's keeping you stuck? Now, that's a whole different approach, right? Because a lot of people, again, will just go into action, make yourself more efficient, more productive, get some things going. I believe when you're stuck, it's because you're not answering that soul's calling all the way. And then also there's going to be, a couple of things around that, but we'll talk about it. When you sit in silence for just that 10 minutes or 30 minutes, it's designed to say, what's working right now is not working. And you ask the question out loud, because every question has an answer. Instead of asking, why me? Or why am I in this? Instead ask, what am I here to learn that I haven't learned yet? Why is it showing up in my life, and what is it here to teach me? You don't even have to try and guess the answers. The answers will start to come as you listen. It might not happen the first time. You might have to do this 3 days in a row. You might have to do it in a week in a row. You might need an accountability buddy to kind of talk it out with a little bit. But when you're stuck, if you go through that process, you'll lift the karmic energy that's kind of pushing you down and keeping you there, to allow yourself to really start to move forward and transform. So different, it's a different process, but I like different processes rather than the cliche stuff, because often the cliche stuff doesn't work so well.
It's almost like you're saying reality is really malleable. So, like, can we actually bend it with thought and emotion?
I believe so, yes. Because if we can bend reality, it's not meaning like it's magic. You're not doing like a rub the Aladdin's lamp there and say like, oh, I got my wish, right? But instead, you are constructing based on internal energy. There's a great book, The Science of Getting Rich. And he talks about it in there, he calls it the thinking substance. And that it's alive and it's active. And we mold this thinking substance based on what we're thinking and feeling, right? So I tell anybody, try it out, experiment, be like a scientist and be like, can I bend reality? Can I change it? Give it a shot. Test it and prove it wrong is a cool thing to do, because then you'll prove it to be right.
It's such an interesting concept, because it's almost like if, you're saying, look, everything in this reality is just energy. And all you're really doing is shifting from one energy to the next based on your thoughts and beliefs. And it's like there's a specific protocol in which you follow to be able to shift that energy, bend the reality, and manifest literally in the physical, because it may be a physical lie in the 3D in that moment, but it becomes a spiritual truth. And it really just makes me think like the stories that we have in the Bible with Yeshua, and he's manifesting things, healing people and stuff. It is almost like if this knowledge he had and he took it to the stratosphere, and it was like where you were saying early in the conversation that your higher self has all of these things now. And it's almost like the way you're talking is like he connected to his higher self in such a way that his higher self came in the physical, in the moment, instead of it being like maybe a split second that it was false. It was like after that split second, it was like, boom, here it is, right? And, it really like, because Yeshua said, greater things shall ye do. And it is almost like if we're on the verge and the precipice of being able to like instantaneously manifest like that. But it sounds very much like we just don't have the protocols, right? In order to do it. But then behind the protocols, there are all of these subconscious beliefs and programming and trauma and fear and all those kind of things that literally just seem to hold us back, And it's very much, I am very much of the opinion that our present state has been very much engineered and manufactured to just keep us down, because like the things that you're saying, it just boggles my mind. I mean, I know why, but why we're not taught these in school? Because like, and I always say that school is just a public indoctrination camp. And you take kids that are like on the verge of genius when they're not entering the school, and then they come out and they're automatons and they're just mindless drones. And if we were taught about manifestation, meditation, healing fears and traumas, we would be walking wrong and everyone would be Christ, And we wouldn't need these control systems like government and religion and stuff that just hold us back. Even money to a degree, you would just be like, oh, okay, how much is that? Okay, thank you very much. Here it is. And it very much reminds me of this book that I read called The Life and Teaching of the Masters of the Far East. Like, incredible book. And the book says is like they're like 400 or 600 masters on the entire planet. And they hide themselves because basically humans become dependent on them and they don't want to do the work. So like if they were to go to buy something, they don't even worry with money because it's like how much it is. and it just appears literally like what Yeshua did in the Bible. And then is like the protocols you're talking about at a very, very high level emotion. It really, when you read these books, it confirms, that's the right word to say, it confirms that this is actually true, right? So you've said that we can collapse time, which is pretty much like kind of what we were talking about just now. I think you're just bringing it from the future to the present. So how does that work in practical terms?
Mm-hmm. What you're talking about there, I think, it's like impressive. When you think about that stuff, it's like, what if that was possible for all? And it is, but like you said so well, like it's so clouded by our subconscious programming and beliefs and everything else going on. So I believe everyone can collapse time frames between now and the receiving of their goal. Some of us are a little better at it. Some of us are a little more skilled, and it can happen faster. And sometimes for some of us, our collapse timeline is like a long time that it takes for things, right? Collapsing time is according to your faith. We're not talking about religious faith. We're talking about how much you feel your desire is natural to you right now. So that's like the biggest objective. If the thing feels natural to me right now, I will more naturally be able to increase the probability that this thing is going to happen in my life faster. And if you don't feel like it's natural right now, the timeline is very long. So if I feel it's natural for me to be in a very loving, amazing soulmate style relationship, and all of my being is in harmony with that, it'll come close. It'll come pretty quick. If I feel I'm never in a good relationship, I can't attract love well, everybody I attract are no good for me, right? All these different beliefs and things. My timeline of actually I might have relationships, but it's not going to be that one I'm looking for, right? That deep love and transformation and growth. So I need to increase my faith, and that lowers the timeline. You increase your faith by increasing the naturalness that it's already who you are. Going back to the identity theme. If you can find that's your objective every day, the naturalness, it'll take off way faster. It was kind of like what I was talking about with money. The $10,000 per month, when I made it small, felt like it was more natural to me. When it was big, it felt very unnatural. Felt like there's no way I could do that. But feeling it small is like, if this is small, it feels doable, and doable feels natural, feels expected, and that's when things start to really move. So it's according to naturalness.
That's a very interesting concept, because I get messages from people and they say, Todd, man, like, I've been doing all this, manifestation work. I've had all of my affirmations and, say them 100 times a day, and they're just not working. But the way you're describing it is like, okay, that is one step of it. But what you said just now is like very much a change in vocabulary in order to bring the belief in. Because I guess for a person that's now starting a business, obviously the first step would be like, say, 10,000 a month, right? But I guess the vocabulary that they're using most likely makes it seem like if it's a big thing. Where now you're saying, well, how would 10,000 feel to a millionaire or to a billionaire or to a person that makes $1 million a month? 10,000 to $1 million a month is like a guy making 120,000 a year spending $100.
Yeah.
It'd be like, but that's nothing. So again, I guess it's almost like, I go back to Joe Dispenza, is like elevated emotion with an intention, the X and Y axis that I described. So it's almost like the feeling that is like, oh, but that's easy for someone making $1 million a month. And then it's like the direction now is like, okay, that's the intention. The intention now is, well, this is what I'm going to do. So it's kind of like really like merging those two things together, whereas like the vocabulary is like the intention, and then then when you combine the belief, the elevated emotion, the way you feel, even though it's in the physical a lie, but because it's a spiritual truth and you feel it in your entire being, it's like it just happens.
Yeah, it's like this click point, I call it. It's like getting past a threshold moment. And that threshold moment, it's when it like clicks. It clicks to be part of who you are. And a part of who you are is that self-image. So as that self-image starts to transform and you're in that click moment, everything in your life, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your behaviors, the reactions from the world start to morph according to that thing. An easy experiment with this is we can all instantaneously manifest right now in this moment from our thoughts. Because manifesting isn't just results coming in. It's not just the 10K a month, 100K a month, million a month. It's if I am intentionally putting out that signal and I'm increasing it with that feeling, my thoughts are going to shift. We can all do it right now. We could say like, you do your gratitude for 5 minutes straight and just finding gratitude. Naturally, your thoughts just start thinking gratitude. It's like when you hear a song, it gets stuck in your head. It just keeps playing and playing. No matter what you do, it just keeps going. Well, if I'm doing that with gratitude, my thoughts are already shifting. That's manifestation level number one. So I could say I manifested so good today, even though it's not results, it's my thoughts. I manifested better thoughts. And then number two, better feelings. Now I'm feeling that intention. I'm magnifying it like you're talking about on the XY axis. I'm starting to get there. I feel proud of myself today because now I manifested the second level, which is feeling. I'm feeling better about me. I'm feeling better about the subjects I'm looking for, right? The money, the love, the dream home, the dream location, all of this. And then third is I did a better action today. I went to the gym. I did that money program. I did that finance thing that I needed to do, right? I went out and went to this place to go and meet other people. Wow, this is fantastic. Now level 3, I'm doing better actions. I'm a master manifestor already. I'm manifesting better thoughts, manifesting better feelings, manifesting better actions, and all those things. If you're just concerned about what you can control, which is those 3 things, the non-controllable, which is the outside world, will start to morph to those levels. So our focus is different when we're thinking in those levels.
You know, what you said just now really reminds me of what I said to 2 of my clients literally this week. And I said to them that one of my coaches said to me, Todd, it is all about stacking your wins. And I said to them, well, this is what that looks like. So if you were, for example, something triggers you, and say, for example, it takes you 90 minutes to recover from it. If on this occasion you got triggered and it takes you 70 minutes, that's actually a win. Cha-ching, right? You actually improved. So that's a win you stack. If it, you are able to get up 3 days out the week on time to go and exercise, cha-ching, that's another win. So keep stacking your wins. So I said to them, the more you stack your wins, the more you realize you're a winner. And the more you realize that you're a winner, you're actually going to manifest winning because the high level goals that you want to achieve will automatically just fall in place. Why? Because you're stacking your wins. And what do winners do? They win. Cha-ching. So you keep stacking the wins. And I find it very synchronistic where that was a very simplified version of what you literally said. And it's almost like, wow, I didn't have the technical term to describe it, but the way my coach taught me is like, always focus on your wins. Keep stacking the wins. And the more you keep stacking your win, I just win, 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 win. And that creates this belief system in you where it's like, it doesn't matter what happens to me today, I'm going to win. Because it's not necessarily, okay, I made 10,000 this month. But if you started at 0 and you made 1,000 this month, cha-ching, that's a win, right? So that belief then manifests into other things. Well, instead of getting up only 3 days on time to train, I got up 4 days. I got up 4 this week. Cha-ching, another win. So I just find it very, serendipitous that you said that in a very eloquent way, I say that in a very like layman's term way for people to kind of get.
Yeah, I love that. It says stacking wins is such a powerful tool. Thinking about athletes and things, sometimes they do it, right? Coordinated boxing matches with somebody they know they could probably win against to get some momentum going again, right? Because if you get, I won 3 matches, now I'm feeling good, right? I'm starting to feel that. And if you're getting, when I had a spiritual mentor, she said that collect evidence for what you're wanting to see in your life. Collect the evidence. So it's stacking the wins. What's the evidence of when I've won before? If I want more abundance in my life, look for abundance now. Maybe you don't have financial abundance, but I have abundance of oxygen. I have abundance of electricity. I have abundance of clean drinking water. So you're building your mind to see abundance everywhere, which makes you feel more abundant. Just like the winner. I'm seeing myself win in all these spots. I'm feeling like a winner, right? So we can build our consciousness. We can change our consciousness by just starting practicing these things. And it's pretty easy. You can have a journal of wins. Like, when did I win when I was in 4th grade? Oh, I won the spelling bee. Oh, I remember that, right? When did I win when I was in 7th grade? Well, I won because I was kind. That's a win, right? And you go through this little journal and you really start to feel really good about yourself, and it translates. It translates into the reality.
Yeah, that's a really awesome exercise to do. So what's the craziest synchronicity or shift you've experienced as a result of applying these quantum principles?
I have tons of them. I love these little stories. I'll say one that I wouldn't say it's the craziest, but it was one that felt most heartfelt to me. Okay, so like 2 months before this actually occurred, I wrote down, doing all the exercises that we're talking about today, that I wanted to meet a thought leader in the spiritual personal development space that inspired me. And I just wanted it to be random. I didn't want to have to go to a seminar or anything like that. I thought it'd be super cool to meet this person in person, talk, have a conversation, take a photo. I thought that would be super cool. I was like, if I can manifest anything, why not do something like that where it's an experience rather than a thing? Every night I would actually focus on feeling it natural, that I was shaking hands with the person, that it felt natural. I didn't have to see a face. It just felt natural to me that now they think I'm very inspiring to them, and we're having a beautiful conversation and all that. So I built the inner conversations. I was finding that evidence within myself, and there was a click point where I felt like this is done deal. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's like a done deal. It felt that way. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. I lived there for about 4 years, and I was thinking about moving. I just felt like my time here is done. It did its work, did its job, and I feel like I'm ready to move on. Like, I can go anywhere. I have an online business, but I have no idea where to go. Like, I can go anywhere, but I don't know where. One of my buddies was living in Miami, Florida at the time, and he called me up and said, why don't you come down? We're having one of the other friends come down. So, okay, great. So I flew over to Miami, and he was living in downtown at the time, and we were in this high-rise building. I landed on Friday, hanging out. Saturday, he's like, I'm going to go to Whole Foods. I got to pick up some groceries. Do you want to come along? It's like, yeah, of course. Like, what am I going to do? Just sit in your room? Let's go, and I'll walk around a little bit. So I'm at this Whole Foods between Brickell area and downtown. Finish up the little grocery shopping that he did, and I'm walking out of the Whole Foods. I'm walking on the right-hand side, the little aisleway. On the left-hand side, right through the door, walks in Les Brown, the motivational speaker. He walks right past me on my left-hand side, my shoulder, just like an inch from my shoulder. And it stunned me. I was like, no way. This is Les Brown walking into Whole Foods. I thought I just saw his face. I was like, there's no way. I was like, I got to go find out. So I told my buddy, I was like, I'll be right back. I go into, the little section there. I couldn't find him. It's a huge grocery store. I mean, we're in Miami, Florida. There's so many people around. There's so many things happening on a Saturday. I was like, I know my heart is here. It just felt like, I know I'll find him. There was no question. There was no doubt. There's no worry. And I went through these aisles and I looked over to my left-hand side. He was by the freezer section. And I was like, that's Les Brown. When I saw him again, I was like, that's it. I walk over to him. I said, hey, Mr. Brown, like, I'm a huge fan. You helped me get started on my personal development journey. He's like, hey, that's so great to meet you. What's your name? We started to have this beautiful conversation. I was a coach with Bob Proctor at the time. He's like, I know Bob. He's one of my best friends. Like, this is great. We talked for 5 minutes about personal development and where my life path was headed. His daughter was there. We exchanged contact info to make sure that we could stay in contact. He says, it's a synchronicity that this happens because I ask every day as well for me to meet people who I can have encouraging conversations with, who know about my work, and I want to get to know them. And today, I also manifested meeting you. And I had some little tears going on in my eyes. I was like, this is it. This is manifesting right here. You can never guess. I don't even live in Miami in a Whole Foods on a Saturday. If I was 5 seconds off, I would have been out. Right? I would have never saw him 5 minutes or 5 seconds before. I would have never cashed out yet. He would have walked past and I didn't see him. It was just a serendipitous moment I'll never forget because it proves that all these things can happen. You never know how, but it's crazy.
Wow. Like, I literally got like goosebumps when you were saying that because I tell you what, right? Like, I find that there are moments like that happen in our lives that I'm starting to think that when the time is right and you are ready, these things will appear. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't even think that was luck, I think what it was is that you prepared yourself mentally. You put the intention out to the universe. And this is one of the things that I teach my clients. And I say to them, look, don't focus on the how, focus on the what. And the more you let go of the how, the more the universe will take care of that behind the scenes for you, right? And you focused only on, I want to meet someone like this. You didn't know it was going to be Les Brown. You didn't actually put Les Brown's name. It was just like, this is what I want to achieve. And the universe was like, okay, cool. Well, your mate's going to call you up. Come down, mate. Let's go to Florida. And then and he was like, well, yeah, okay, cool. And that is what you call serendipity. And people will say, but Todd, he was lucky. I'm like, no, luck comes from a person who's prepared, right? To take advantage of that, because what could have happened as well is that you could have frozen where you'd be like, too struck to even go and do it, right? So it's almost like that inner being, the higher self just like pushed you, because you said that you looked around and was like, nah, so you could have easily have said, nah, man, I'm tripping, right? And just carried on. But you said it was like, no, that was him. Hold on a minute, mate. And you left your mate and you went to go and find him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. These things, it's so easy I think you said it so well, of preparing your place, right? And I think to human beings, we create the word coincidence or luck to describe things for unknown causes, right? We see things as randomly happening, and to an extent that we can see the energetic field around us and really believe in this information and say, well, what if that can happen to me? And the cool part about the story, I think, that hits home too, is that it wasn't overnight. It wasn't the next day that I, met him, which can happen too. But this was a process. And it was over a couple of months, and to be able, that exact day, at that exact time, at that exact location. What I share a lot with my clients is Abraham Hicks' quote. It's that go down the path of least resistance, and your inner being will find the path of least resistance for you. And there was no effort. I had to do my inner work, but to actually meet him was no effort. I didn't have to fly to, okay, he's over in Europe. I'm going to go fly over to Europe just for that, to see if I can meet him there, stand outside for 3 days to, hey, with a sign or something like that to meet him. It was a very easy way of meeting him, which your inner being will find an easy way, or the path that not necessarily isn't challenging, but a path that's aligned with you. It feels fun. It feels exciting. It feels good. I think that's everything.
So basically, you're talking about the inner preparation that you did prior, and then obviously you having like the intention and you put it out in the universe. So are we living in a simulation? And if so, what's your take on that theory from a quantum standpoint?
Yeah, that's a great theory. I listen to Elon Musk talk about simulation theory a lot. Any video that I can find on that stuff. I think that this is a simulation, 100%. It's just data and information that we're viewing. And I mean, when you look up, you can even just use AI, like, hey, describe how an ear works or an eyeball, right? That's all it's doing is taking an energy, like what we're viewing right now is the energy spectrum. On the electromagnetic spectrum, we're only viewing a tiny bit, the rainbow, color. But we can't see radio waves, we can't see microwaves, we can't see radio, all these things. So I believe that we only see the data that comes through our senses only, and that we are in this simulation that we can shift around. I also believe with the simulation idea that it's not for nothing. Because sometimes when you feel like you're in a simulation, you're like, none of this matters. That can be, to me, it's just a belief that I have that this really does matter karmically, very strongly. That it's not like a game, like a video game. It kind of is, but it's a video game that matters, if that correlation makes sense. Because sometimes we could say we're playing a video game, I could just sit down on the couch and just hang out, and if this is simulation, doesn't matter, right? And I think deeper that the simulation was created to help us as a soul mature and elevate to a higher level to become one with itself even deeper. So it was constructed as a way of like a learning playground, like a life school, and that we can learn in this school. If we understand we're in a simulation, we can understand what was I designed to be here for. Because it's my belief that before we came into this life, we chose our parents. We chose the deepest circumstances that we were going to be encountering. We do have free will, but that is balanced with a little bit of fate and destiny with our karmic lessons that we chose to be here in this lifetime for. So if we seek to understand what karmic lesson am I here to understand and learn through and go through, simulation can become a playground rather than a suffering. And that can be a better way of living.
Very interesting concept. It reminds me of basically the glass is half full and half empty at the same time. It's just a matter how you view it. So we can view it as being, okay, it's a simulation. It doesn't really matter. Who cares? Very, very extreme nihilistic approach. Or you can look at it in terms of, all right, it's a simulation, but what can I learn? So the same thing is that you're saying is a simulation, but one is just a different thought process in terms of like, what can I learn? How can I improve? What could I or would I do differently had I known, etc., etc. Is that about right?
I think that's spot on because none of us really know. None of us really know what happens or what this is all about. But if there's a way, if two different people are learning about this, and one is more nihilistic and pessimistic, and what a way to live. It's not fun. So if we don't really know what's going on here, what if we just did our best so we could be the happiest, most peaceful, and have a lot of fun while we're here? It just seems like a better outcome, at least to me. I don't think there's a right or wrong way, but I do believe that if you could consciously choose, why not choose a way that feels best? That feels like I did grow, I expanded, I took the risk, I took the chances, I went all in on my life. Sometimes it was uncomfortable, but I took the step when I needed to. I think that's a good outlook, at least to me.
Yeah, what you're saying is like, what I say like to my my mother and people that I care about, whereas like it's almost like a legacy, right? Like, how would you want to be remembered? And I say to them, and for the first time I can say, no, I want to be remembered as a guy that went for it. He gave his best. He tried, he went all in. He had a bunch of mistakes, did this and did that. But one thing you have to say, he dreamed big, he went for it, And what a guy. He learned a bunch of stuff. And he said, hey guys, come. This is what I'm learning. Let's have a bit of fun. Let's try to crack this matrix and see how we could, live our best lives, right? And I think that's a lot more positive than being just completely doom and gloom, because, to be honest, when you start to come into this information and this consciousness and you start to have this way of being, it is so easy to just be completely nihilistic, because at the moment, what you were saying is that you have a spiritual truth but a physical lie, because in the physical now, right now in this juncture, things are really hard. We are not living like this. But on the spiritual level, that actual belief is true, right? So, I think it's very much a shift in terms of, is the glass half empty or is the glass half full? And I tend to be a half full kind of guy, because, it's just a little bit more positive, even if the situation is the same,
Yes. Yeah, I think that even just that right there, the situation's the same. How do I want to view it? And that's where I believe that the free will of choice comes in. Now, what's interesting, I think, that mixes in with choice and free will is automatic choice versus conscious choice. So if we're usually automatically saying the glass is half empty, it's usual. We're programmed to think that way. Maybe our mother or father was also kind of in that realm, and we are mirroring some of their habits. But we can consciously choose right now in this moment, I'm going to think it differently. Now, a part of us wants to protect the old belief system. That's why wars happen, because there are always belief clashes, right? We try and protect what we believe in most, thinking it's the most truthful and the most right. But if we can start allowing our being to start questioning our beliefs, why do I believe this? Is it a good belief? Do I want more of it, or do I not like it? What's a new belief that I can adopt? What's a new belief that I might be able to start looking into? Okay, I kind of like this idea that the glass is half full. It feels good. And I can start choosing consciously. And I think that's when life transformation really begins, when you're consciously choosing a different path.
Yeah, I concur very much so, because it's all about choosing a different path instead of what makes us comfortable, what makes us feel safe, because basically in this matrix, we sacrifice freedom for safety. I think that's the absolute wrong choice to make, So what motivates you to keep doing this work at such a high level of service and energy?
The vision I have feels like a deeper soul's calling. And it more draws me now than using willpower. At the start, there's a lot of willpower, like trying to build business, trying to get things done, trying to help coach and all of that. Now it feels like it pulls me. It magnifies me towards it. So it's not really necessarily like, usually I used to have a lot of motivation, like financial freedom, have something cool happen in life, take luxury trips. Like that used to be the core why, you write down your list of all the things you want to do and accomplish. And I still have those for sure, and on a couple of different bases, but it's now become like a motivation of, it fuels me. It fills my cup. It feels delightful to keep experiencing and helping others expand. There's a great book that I'm reading right now, and I like to kind of pick up books that are recommended but deep or mystical in nature. It's called Soulcraft. And within this book, he talks about that there's this light consciousness, that's you becoming one with a higher spirit. There's this middle consciousness where you're becoming one with your body and the being in the physical realm. And then there's this kind of under consciousness, which is the soul's kind of calling, where when I did plant medicine, iboga, I did it in Costa Rica again 3.5 weeks ago, somewhere around there. I knew at a very deep center already that my purpose here is to help people heal, going to the deepest depths of who they are and facing that and helping them go through that moment and series of moments. So now it feels like a movement, something, my gift to the world. And that's what motivates me the most, because it just feels like it feels fun now rather than material things.
Yeah, I have a very similar feeling now within me where, you know, it's a bit mad for me because, like, I remember when it was coming into contact with all this information, and I would never forget. So, like, when I was back in London, I had a flatmate that he was a Christian, and we would have some really interesting conversations. And he used to say he used to love to have these conversations because I used to bring a lot of different concepts. And he always said to me, he used to call me Toddy Man. He says, Toddy Man, what you can do with all this knowledge and information you have? And I used to say to him, I don't know, mate. Like, I don't know why I'm finding it, but I just feel like if I'm being called to it, and like I read all these bunch of books because I was recovering from ankle surgery and I was in a really dark place, and like people turn to, say, pornography, drugs, like booze. I turned to books, and I just started to read books because I just needed to escape from what I was going through. And every single book that I picked up and found, or YouTube channel or mentor or spiritual guide, I never actually had to go and look for them. They just turned up. And then even after like a few years of like still trying to improve and learn these things, I was like, but what purpose is it serving me? Because all I'm doing is isolating myself more from people because people think I'm a bit freaking mad.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you know, why am I learning all of these things? Why can I retain all of this information? How is this actually helpful to the world? Fast forward, I'm here talking to Scott Haug on things now that really like send off like mental confetti in my brain just talking to you. And it's almost like this, like, I guess I just answer my call, and I actually love what I do now. Like, I used to love being a civil engineer. Absolutely loved it because, you know, we changed the environment in which we live. But now I'm touching people's hearts and minds and sharing information with them, or getting them into shape as well, which are actually very linked into transforming themselves. So, you know, I just find like when you start to serve others is when you get the most rewards in life. You actually get the most happiness. Because I've gotten messages from Pakistan, Iraq, people that don't even speak English, and say, Todd, your content has helped me. Please keep going. Like, you've helped me in ways like you have no understanding. And I'm like, wow. As I showed the message to my mother sometimes, and I'm like, well, I could never have envisioned 8 years ago, after having ankle surgery, that I will be helping people in such a transformative way. So I concur with everything you had said in terms of having a deeper purpose, answering your call. And in my case, I was a bit stubborn, but like now I've completely let go, and I truly love what I do. I never ever get up and think, oh man, I gotta speak to Scott today. I was buzzing before we actually got on the call, right? So I just want to say to people quickly, like, you got to answer your call. It's about, you know, listening to that inner voice. And the key is service to others. Once you start being of service, you unlock so many different things, you know?
Yeah. To jump on that just a little bit, I think curiosity and interest is the spark. And that is amazing that you're able to even find curiosity and interest from where you were at in that dark space, right? Because like you said, so many people go to coping mechanisms that are so unhealthy, right? And for anybody listening in, I think that curiosity is the spark of the path. It's kind of like, okay, the road is so dark and I'm driving and I don't have headlights. Okay, so I pulled over. I'm like, I don't know where to go, right? But then you like turn on your headlights. You're able to now. And it's like, oh, there's the road. And I think the headlights are the curiosity. It shows you where the path starts. You can't see the whole path; it's dark, but you can see it. When you accept the calling, it's like putting on the high beams. Like, oh, now I'm really getting it. And then the gas is like the service. Like you're saying, like, oh, now I'm driving. Now I'm helping the world. And that analogy has helped me out so much.
Wow, fantastic, fantastic. So how do you see the collective consciousness evolving in the next 5 years?
I think probably what a lot of people have heard online already, that we're in like this spiritual evolution, I think very deeply, especially over the last 5 years since 2020. I think that the world is healing to an extent that history's never seen at a mass scale, from at least what we know of history, whatever is accurate or not, which is a different, story altogether. But I think the next 5 years is a lot of people are becoming more conscious. A lot of people are becoming more aware of their health, of their mental health, their emotional health. I think that things like plant medicine are becoming more prevalent to heal and help modalities wise. I think that with the spread of social media, even though it can be like a two-edged sword, right? Social media, binging on it, not necessarily good, and scrolling, but consciously going on social media and finding a great YouTube video on mysticism or law of attraction or something like that, like, I think it's really expanded our reach and our hold on what we can do. So I think over the next 5 years, I think we'll be blown away by the amount of more people going to modalities and ceremonies and seminars and workshops and listening to podcasts like yours, Todd, and just being more available and open to these ideas, I think.
I definitely see that as well, because this year has been an extraordinary year in terms of like the amount of interest that I see that people are having. Like I said, I get messages from people from Iraq, Pakistan, Bangladesh, people that don't speak English. There seems to be this innate sort of like waking up, but waking up in a sense where it's like people have this innate feeling that something just isn't right. I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. Like, what is there more to life? And I get, people from all over listening to my show. And for me, when I look at my analytics and stuff, and I'm like, wow, I never envisaged this. And I know that this conversation is going to do really well, and a lot of people are going to like it, because I am absolutely loving talking to you. I say to people that one of the reasons why I do podcasts is almost like therapy for me, because in my daily life, it is difficult to have conversations with people like this.
Yes.
And a lot of people can feel like if they're alone. A lot of people can feel like there's no one to talk to. And I would say that, yes, I do feel the same way. And this is one of the things that helps me, which is having my show, having to connect 2-3 times a week with other people that keep the fire burning in me, keep me grounded, because it is easy to get lost,
Yeah, it is very much. And getting lost, I think that's why, keep listening into the podcast, keep doing these things, like all these different modalities are ways to stay connected with your truth. And it's so easy, so many people around all of us, it's just not there yet.
It's true. So what advice would you give to someone who feels like they're awakening, but the people around them aren't?
Fabulous question, because I think this message is really important to get out to more people. And I think actually there's a antagonistic message that's too prevalent now in social media and society. To me, what I see and hear a lot on social media is when you're around people and you're awakening and they feel like they're too negative or they're pulling you down, a lot of people's advice is get away from them, get them out of your life, move, do these things. I actually strongly disagree with that approach that a lot of social media is saying right now. Here's the deep reason. If you are in a very peaceful, healed place, these same people can't trigger you. They can be massively negative. They can be like saying all these different things, but nothing happens inside of your frequency. It stays the same because you are observing and they have nothing to trigger inside. Super interesting principle I'm working with all my clients on right now. Here's the switch. These people are mirroring karmic triggers that you have yet to be healed on. So if this person is talking bad about money, it's like, oh no, I want to hear it. That's how it used to be. I'd be like, no, turn off the TV. I can't hear this thing because I feel like it's pulling me down. What was actually going on was I had a money wound inside. The thing on the outside, the TV, the people, the conversations was triggering, and I was feeling the trigger, but I was blaming them. You're pulling me down, but really what was going on was there's something inside of me, living inside of me, that was triggering from the circumstance. The ownership has changed where they're not to blame emotionally or anything going on. I take ownership for what's going on inside. So what goes on is as you're awakening, use the people around you that are like not on the same page as you as your biggest teachers. As you bring in your other crowd. So it's okay, bring in more conscious friends and people around you, yes. But keep these other people, family, friends, all these other people in your life. Number one, because you probably love them and you want to be around them, you have to abandon them. But number two is, if they say something and I feel a certain way, I cringe or something, it alerts me, what do I need to learn? What are they triggering? What do I need to heal? And at that place, you're a master. Because everything around you can become one of those monks that's like, you can't affect me. You can't pull me down. There's no way. Physically, okay, you might be able to throw something at me and you cut me a little, right? Physically, yeah. Spiritually, you can't. You can't touch internally. So that's a whole different framework. And when you see it that way, every client I've ever given that to, they're like mind blown. They're like, I've never seen it in that capacity. And when you do, it's very liberating, because then you can be around anybody and you're okay. You can teach and heal through that.
That is very interesting and not a concept I've actually heard before, but I'm going to entertain that because I do agree wholeheartedly that when someone says or does something and it triggers you, it does come from a place of trauma, fear, and something that's not healed. So I do get that. And it is true that everybody can teach you something in life. So everybody is your teacher. And it's true because I am very much of the thinking where the thing is, I'm kind of like a little bit different where I don't say cut them out. I say to people that what will happen is that they will cut you out because they are just not going to be able to handle what you're becoming. And there's going to be no commonality anymore. So I actually don't tell people to cut other people out. I say, well, look, you just keep working on yourself and they are the ones that are going to remove themselves from you. And if they do that, then that's the universe saying, okay, they're not supposed to be in your circle right now, which is a bit of a mix between the two. But I do like your distinction. It does make sense. And I'm very much going to consider that modality in terms of myself and my coaching, because I've never heard that one before. I've always heard the just cut them out, right? Yeah. And to some degree, I think that's the right thing to do. But you've made me think now in a different way that is a bit more of instead of a very blunt action, is more of a softy approach, but still like focusing on the mission, which is you, working on yourself, right? So very, very interesting.
I agree so much what you're saying that, often when you're doing these healings and things, they'll leave anyways, right? They'll cut themselves out. And I think what comes down to here is that like we see why are they here in the conversation. So for example, my previous relationship was there were so many things that were going on, and so many things are going on for me, but there were puzzle pieces together. Like we talk about anxious attachment, anxious avoidance, a lot of terms we hear in relationality. So what it came down to is when she or I was, triggering or there was something going on there, it was what is inside of me that is being called forth to heal through, right? And then you maybe have friends or something that are around you and they're like, they're not on my page anymore. You've grown so much that they naturally don't want to be hanging around you as much anymore because you're not in the same conversation, right? You're not on the same wavelength anymore, which you said so well is like they'll start to cut themselves out because you're not synced in together anymore, right? But now you came from a place of not running away from the scenario. You've healed, you feel the wholeness, and you can be around these people and it's okay. Now, one quick disclaimer I always say to my clients, because somebody had brought this up, I think it's so important. That doesn't need to say you don't put up boundaries when needed, right? So I always say that because then sometimes it can take extreme, like, oh, I should just be around anybody at any time. No, of course, we're not being passive. If there's ever need to be safe boundaries, you put up those boundaries. But what I'm saying is those places where you can hear about conversations or topics and you're still, like there's nothing happens inside. And then you can consciously choose whether you want that person in your life.
Yeah, I agree. Boundaries is very, very important. So
Yeah.
what's your spiritual practice or daily ritual that grounds you and keeps you aligned?
Well, it goes back to silence within, really going back to internal and saying, when can I take 15, 30 minutes today and really just be silent and just listen? Is there an inner part of me that's trying to talk to me? Is there a part of me that I know is ready for a next step that I should be accepting that call for? Is there a part of me that is open to a new beginning, a new evolution? This keeps me in a place where I continue to listen as much as possible because we'll get stuck in day to day. We all got very busy lives, So if I'm in go or getting stuff done, that's one element of life. But if I can consciously just be with these ideas of like listening and what do I want for my life, keeps me grounded, keeps me in a spot where I'm listening to the higher voice and listening less to that ego voice. So like we talked about earlier, right? Being able to distinguish, is this full of love and full of wisdom and goodness? And where does that go from,
Interesting. So if you could teach one quantum truth to every person on the planet, what would it be and why?
You can transform your life at any moment, starting right now. And it takes practice and effort, but there's a process and protocol to do it. And if we can all start with that principle, as basic and as simple as it sounds, we can start to shift our life in any capacity. Like I referenced earlier is martial arts. And I'm a black belt in martial arts just because I've been doing it for forever, since I was 3 years old. And in martial arts, even the black belt level, you still do the fundamentals. They call them basics, regular punches and kicks and stances and all this, because the fundamentals are everything. So if you can remember the fundamental belief, I can transform my life. If I remember that every day, I won't feel victim. I won't need to blame. I won't need to see something on the outside. It's like, the only thing I need to look at is me in the mirror. And what do I need to do today to transform? If we can maintain that belief, I think everything from here on out becomes an easier path.
Very much, again, about mindset and internal thoughts and beliefs. So let's get into an interesting topic that I think that more, especially in terms of what you do and you teach. So what are your thoughts on money and wealth from a vibrational and energetic lens?
I believe that money is purely energy, and it's an exchange of energy, and that's all it is. Wealth is having the nervous system capacity to hold that much energy that you're desiring. If we go back, even not that long ago, paper money was invented, coins were invented, and before that, there was trade. I would trade fur for a gun if I needed to hunt. I would trade food for water. I would trade my building skills for somebody else who could have cooking skills, right? It was just trade. So paper money, coins, as we know it, came into play because it's easier to give somebody gold coins than to exchange them, giving them a cow every time, right? It's just easier, right? So human beings made up money. And just knowing that is everything. It's just a system. It's just a system of exchange of service. Money doesn't have to be bad or evil. It doesn't have to be good. It's just a thing. It's kind of like like a phone is not bad or good. It's how we use it. So money's not good or bad. We just how we use it. And then it went to digital and cryptocurrency and all the other stuff that we know of, right? But when you look at your bank account, it's digital. It's data. It's just an energy in there. So when we are working on our money mindset, and if I know money is just an energy of exchange, if I increase that energy with love and gratitude, it'll come back to me faster. So the next time I pay for something, if I go to a local store, or I had somebody drive me around and I give them a tip, or a waiter and I give them a tip, bless the money. I bless you and I bless the goodness of God within you. I bless you with gratitude. And every single time you bless it or be in gratitude of it, the money energy, which we talked about earlier, becomes abundance consciousness, and it allows us to increase the wealth capacity. So we need to realign ourselves with it's okay to have a lot of money. It's okay to have tons of money. It's okay to have lots of wealth. And I think religion, as well as how we grew up, calms us out. It's not okay to have a lot of money or something's bad to be wealthy or any of these beliefs. They're all crazy beliefs. There's no backing to those. So when we start to question them, we start to really see it for what it is.
I like that. So money is just the energy, and the wealth is the vessel that holds the energy.
Yes.
The I'm very interested is it's like you have a cup, and that's the body that holds the water, the liquid, and the liquid is the money, and the cup is just that container that holds all the energy, which is the wealth. Very, very interesting concept. So you work with high-level entrepreneurs. What separates the ones who quantum leap from the ones who don't?
Yeah. Number one to me is to actually implement what we talk about. I always say, I can get a good read before I work with somebody. We're on an initial call together. I'm like, is this going to be a fun client to work with or not so much? I'll know by their open-mindedness and willingness to take action, right? Because I can do a little energy operation on them. I can help them release trauma, but I can't show up on the call for them, right? So number one is the idea of they implement and they're very good at implementing, just keeping an open mind. The clients that have less and they kind of struggle a little bit, they battle, right? So I'll say this belief, try and believe in this. They're like, well, yeah, but what if I wanted to believe in this, right? I'm like, well, you came to me to give you some guidance, right? So just try it first before you question, yeah? Come in skeptical, yeah, sure. We can talk about why, but just give it a shot. That's important. Second important quality, I think it's almost near as important as the first one, is the willingness to accept new ideas. Because if you're not very willing and you're very combined with your current beliefs and your current ways of living, you don't want to change, it's very hard to change, right? So we have to be very open and willing to be changeable and malleable. And my top clients always have those two traits. They're the ones that have the highest success stories. They're the ones that have the great wealth that comes in and the great love and the healing. They always have those two. It's like universal with every client I have.
You know what you said is true, because I get people that come to me and they want to get into shape, and I tell them exactly what to do, and they push back on what I tell them to do. And I recently had a client that we had to go our separate ways for that, because it's like, you came to me because you want to be more physically attracted to women. And I'm telling you, well, this is what you need to do. And then he's saying to me, well, it doesn't feel like if your program is personalized to me. I said, okay, that's an interesting question. So which part of it do you feel is not personalized to you? He says, well, not really, but I just felt like if maybe, you know, I was letting you down in some capacity because I didn't do X, Y, and Z. I said to him, but you came to me because you wanted my help. And I'm giving you the protocol that works. This is years of refinement, and I'm telling you what works. And I don't mind someone questioning me, but you're simply not open to actually making change. By being not open to try new things or to change, it means then that you're going to repeat the same things that you've been doing all the time, which is counterproductive, you know? So I very much see exactly the same thing on my side. And the clients that I have that do the best are the ones that ask a ton of questions, hit me up all the time. Can you explain this? They do it, they come back. Oh, you know, they're always in contact with me. You know, they always want to learn more. It's almost like if we were like, because I'm an online coach, it's almost like if I had like a gym, they would be like the first ones outside waiting for the gym to open just to get my time, right? And I do see the exact same thing on my side, where the ones that are the most keen, ask the most questions, the most open-minded, get the best results. And I always say success leaves clues. And those are the clues, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's something you believe now that would have blown your mind 5 years ago?
That there's energy portals, if you will, that connect us from this world to the spirit world, and that we can travel down these light tunnels at any time. And I would have been like, what in the world are you even saying? Like, that doesn't even make sense. And that is something that would be mind-blowing.
Yeah, like, you know, and I think that in the future, we will actually see these portals physically opening as well. Because as above, so below, what is internal becomes external, right? So I think that we're going to definitely see fantastic things happening in the next 5 years that's going to blow people's minds.
Yeah, because it's all tucked away from awareness because we're not open to it.
True.
Right. So if we become more aware and we grow into these beliefs, that it's like, well, what do we start seeing in the physical world that maybe the mystics have seen for thousands of years that we kind of tucked away?
Very, very true. So lastly, what's your vision for humanity if more people understand and embody this work?
I think at the deepest levels, the cosmic vision I can see is that there will never be another war ever again in the world. It can't happen. If people who are doing anything that's, you know, combative or harmful to another, it's just a state of consciousness that they're in and almost always unhealed in some sort of way, right? So it becomes very combative. I think a cosmic vision is that if everyone is doing their deepest work healing wise, changing the view of their consciousness, doing the very best they can to transform who they are, and becoming more of love and this greatness that we have within, we would find that you would walk down the street and you'd hear people talking about their consciousness. You walk into a coffee shop and people are like, hey, not like, how are you doing today? Like, instead, how's your consciousness shifting going? How much love are you feeling today? You know, it'll be more powerful conversations. It'll be more evolved. It won't be just like, oh yeah, you know, yeah, it rained yesterday. Okay, great, you know, surface conversation. It'll be more like, tell me more about your soul's calling. How's that going for you? And these will be regular conversations, and those will be the normal, and the weird or the outsiders will be the ones that are talking about the weather, right? So kind of flip flop a little bit. And, you know, I think it's very real, very, very possible.
I absolutely love that. And those are the absolute conversations that I would absolutely love to have in the future with people. And I say to people that in the future, I can't envisage that we be using money as a currency. The currency that we will be using, the unit of measure will be the amount of love that's in your heart, right?
Mhm.
And this is how I see it, which is very similar to what you're saying, because, you know, if you have like a level now where you can actually see the level of someone's love in their heart, you will start to be like, well, okay, I'm not, maybe I don't really want to be around that person because, you know what I mean, their love levels are like super low. So then that would be an inspiration for the person to up their love levels, because in reality, the truth is that there's no lack in this world. We have more abundance than we can even imagine. And right now in the 3D, we're really in hell because we're killing each other. Like the way hell is described in these scriptures, this is what we're going through. No, we're seeing people killing themselves, people smashing one another's heads against the floor and you know what's not. So, you know, conversations like this are really important to really give people hope and to give people the practical tools that they need, and also to, you know, awaken that fire in their belly to, you know, go and listen to their higher self. When that soft word comes in, remember that is from a place of discomfort and love at the same time. And once, you know, people follow all the stuff you said in this podcast, I'm sure that we will make a big impact and sow that seed, because I'm realizing that is very much about sowing seeds today. Because when you sow the seeds today, you're going to get the massive trees of tomorrow. And I can envisage in 5 years that the stuff that you said will be very, very much the reality. Because for you and I, that may be a physical lie, but it's a spiritual truth, right?
Yeah.
So, Scott, it has been absolutely fantastic talking to you. I was literally buzzing before we got on this call to talk to you, because as I was preparing the questions to talk, it was like, wow, I am just like excited. So please tell the lovely people where they can find you, what services you offer, if they wanted to get into contact you, how you can help them, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you for having me on, Todd. Your energy is so powerful, and I appreciate these very fun conversations to have. So, yeah, absolutely. For anybody listening, to get started, just go to my YouTube channel. It's Scott Haug Official, spelled Haug, and it's easy, down to earth, practical exercises, tons of visuals. Just get started there. It's easy, it's simple to kind of move forward with, and Instagram as well. And if you're looking for like a paid small membership where you're like, okay, I have a curriculum and I have a soul tribe, we're right on School, SKOOL, School, and it's called Prosperity Magnet. And on there, it's a step-by-step curriculum, structure, and everything. It's fun because every week you get a module. You're surrounded by other people, like we're talking here, like being around your tribe. Everyone's talking manifesting, everyone's talking about attraction and like, how do I do better in life? So you're around people that have a common mindset. And I think that's so important. So that'll be a good way to get started.
Awesome. And all the links to everything Scott talked about will be in the description of this podcast. And folks, as you know, I'm an online fitness trainer. I help spiritually inclined people burn fat and build muscle. So summer is soon going to be here. So if you would like to get that summer body, that beach body, you know what I mean, that body that you've always wanted, hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246, or my name on Facebook, Todd Cave. Send me a message and let's see if you're a good fit to join the Compound Body Training Army. And as you know, people, I can help if you want to start a spiritual journey, or you are currently on a spiritual journey and you would like to remove some fears and traumas. I can help you to connect with some magic mushrooms. So just hit me up again on my Instagram at Adriano_246, or my name, Todd Cave, and I will help you to get some magic mushrooms. And if you would like to support this podcast, you can do that by supporting our merch store on Amazon called Todd and Me. We have some cool tank tops, hoodies, shirts, and sweats. And as you can see, I have on the Conscious Man 7 shirt today. So if you would like to get one just like that and support the cause here, because that helps us with things like video editing, and, you know, it allows us to keep getting some great guests like Scott to come on the show. And if you get a shirt or a hoodie or anything like that, and just send a picture to me on my Instagram at Adriano_246 or my name Todd Cave, and I will give you a shout out on one of the podcasts or in my stories as well. And people, if something clicked for you today, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with one person who is ready to shift. And if you're listening on Spreaker, Spotify, or Apple, drop a 5-star rating because that helps us to be recommended in the algorithms. And it also helps us to reach more awakened men and women ready to step into their power. Scott, this has been a fantastic conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And conversations like these are what I actually live for. And I'm very, very humbled that you could come on to my show and to share some amazing content. And you also gave people some practical tools on how they can actually apply in their daily life in order to get the shift and the level ups that they want.
Thanks, Ted.
Okay, people, this has been another amazing show and another amazing conversation. So I thank you very much for tuning in and giving me your time today. And remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep being the change you want to see. Cheers and namaste.